The seven-base apparatus of systems provides an architectural blueprint for the foundational construction and compounding of the enemy's warfare systems. This episode will go into further detail about not only the seven-base foundation of systems, but also the derivative aspects and outputs of systems. In Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's breakdown of the psychology of white supremacy, she posited what she referred to as the unified field theory. On page 44 of her work, The ISIS Papers, she states, quote, "All major and minor behavior energy crystallizations or behavior units in the global white collective, no matter how simple or complex, old or new, short or long-lived, must conform, in the final analysis, to the basic behavior energy equation of white over non-white, or white power over non-white powerlessness. This is the necessary power or energy equation for white genetic survival. This behavior energy equation is expressed in energy manifestations of patterns of logic, thought, speech, action, emotional response and perception in all areas of people activity. From this basic law, it becomes possible to predict the ultimate output of individual and collective white brain computers at the local and global levels." End quote. Further, she states that the unified field theory of psychiatry is a psychiatry that perceives a definable whole global system of behavior energy, wherein the behavior events lend themselves to prediction because the ultimate objective of the system remains constant. Welsing explained how she calculated this theory based off of the considerations of Einstein in his concepts of physical energy. Systems theory is an interdisciplinary field of science, which studies the intricacies of complex systems in nature and society. It is a scientific perspective which views the complex parts of reality as systems. This includes systems across various domains such as biology, sociology, engineering, ecology, etc. It emphasizes the interactions among complex components of a system and considers them as part of a larger whole, rather than isolated phenomena. Central to this theory is the idea that systems have properties and behaviors that emerge from the relationships and interactions of their parts. This is known as holism. The positive and negative feedback loops of these systems play a crucial role in influencing system dynamics, stability, and change. This allows for better understanding and management of complex phenomena, as it accounts for the interconnectedness and interdependence of a system's elements. This theory is what provides valuable insights into how systems operate and evolve over time, which allows us to solve problems across a variety of fields. In common sense terms, holistic defense therefore means mental, physical, as well as systematic defense. Most self-help gurus and psychiatrists only provide the mental and/or physical techniques of healing, without providing a defense manual and blueprint of the interconnected warfare system of their outer environment as a whole. A physical terrain which possesses the same patterns and mechanisms, which is the micromotion, used to assault the mind and body. Micromotion, as described by B. Alan Bentov, is a concept related to the small, subtle movements or vibrations that occur within living systems. These movements play a critical role in maintaining balance and health of the system. Bentov explored the implications of micromotion in various contexts, including both biological systems and the systems of consciousness. He described how micromotions are fundamental to how living organisms function, which influences cellular processes and interactions. These micro-level movements affect everything from biochemical reactions to the overall vitality of the organism. In the context of human consciousness, he suggested that our thoughts and experiences may be influenced by these minute movements. Our interaction with the universe and our perceptions of reality are shaped by the internal vibrations. These micromotions create energetic patterns, contributing to what he described as a vibrational framework of existence that underlies both physical and metaphysical experiences. The reason that Black society cannot truly heal, whether physically or mentally, is because we do not recognize or perceive the insidious micromotions of white supremacy warfare and oppression, which include subtle warfare tactics, assaults, suggestions, attitudes, and systemic inequities that perpetuate marginalization. These small, yet pervasive behaviors which go unnoticed by the conscious mind are what contributes to a culture of Black mental dissociation and hypnotic trauma. The enemy is the puppet master of the world. A puppet master is a metaphorical term describing someone who manipulates or controls people, events, or systems from behind the scenes, much like a puppeteer operates puppets on strings. He exerts power and influence over society and orchestrates his clandestine actions without being visible to his puppets on the ground. The puppet master is the one who controls the political systems, organizations, or social dynamics by using subtle manipulation techniques to achieve his goals. He employs persuasive communication, psychological tactics, and strategic planning in order to steer the decisions and behaviors of others. By understanding the motivations and weaknesses of his so-called puppets, he can effectively ensure that his agendas are carried out while maintaining an illusion of autonomy. This type of control creates complex dynamics, as those being manipulated are most often unaware of the puppet master's influence. In a psychological context, the puppet master exploits the vulnerabilities of his subjects and therefore creates a sense of dependency or loyalty to him, which keeps him in power. As stated in Episode 4, when it comes to decoding and dismantling the oppressive warfare system, the enemy claims that the system is just too complex to fix in a reasonable amount of time, and therefore plants the mental seed that if the system is too complex for even the so-called intellectual superiors of the world, then the so-called inherently inferior, society will certainly have no hope in correcting it at all. This is only a tactic of false superiority that is used by any opponent in combat. The system is not too complex. At its architectural root, decoding it is simply a matter of basic arithmetic. Decoding the root of binary systems does not require rocket science. As Scripture has told us, God is not the author of confusion, and He has made all things to be simple. Overly complex, melanin-destructive teaching styles and curriculums are intentionally taught to Black students so that they, who are the true atoms of civilization and Black economic independence, would be too overstimulated and blinded to the fact that the way to navigate this life of warfare is as easy as learning the alphabet in preschool. As common sense axiom number 7 states, the first Hermetic base law of all things manifesting from the mind means, on one hand, that all things in the contemporary world manifests from the biological psychology of the mind which founded it. The melanin-deficient, limited sense perception of the enemy and the simplistic Caucasian thought processes therefore means that what he builds will be based on the circumference of his perceptual capacity. If it is the simplistic non-melanin Caucasian mindset and thought processes that has built this world, then that means decoding the seemingly idiopathic mental, physical, and sociopolitical cause of all dis-ease and disorder takes the most simplistic thinking as well. All of the enemy's systems are systems of illusion. They are illusions of superficial complexity. This means that the intricate interactions and numerous components of his systems can create the appearance of chaos or difficulty. From economic markets to complex biological ecosystems, systems often display behaviors that seem overwhelming due to their many variables and relationships. This complexity is driven by feedback loops, where even the smallest changes can lead to larger consequences. This is what creates the seemingly tangled web. Yet, beneath this facade lies a foundation built on simple, fundamental principles. Many systems are governed by basic laws or behaviors that, when isolated, resemble straightforward mathematical concepts. For example, in economic systems, trends can often be traced back to basic principles like supply and demand or competition. When you dig deeper to identify these underlying components, the intricate nature of the system becomes more manageable. Decoding a complex system often comes down to applying basic arithmetic or simplistic rules, such as addition, subtraction, or ratios, to the basic elements that govern its behavior. By focusing on these core principles, we can untangle what appears complex, discern the foundational patterns, and predict outcomes more easily. Thus, let's take a closer look at exactly what mathematics is. Mathematics is an aboriginal invention and formal system of logic, structure, and patterns which is based on the structure and motion of melanin. As stated in Episode 3, the study of science is the study of melanin. When you study cells, atoms, electrons, neurons, etc., it is never mentioned that all of these components are encapsulated in melanin pigment. The biggest trick of the enemy's education of today is to hide and/or distort the emotional motherboard of all things, which is Black Adam. Mathematics is abstract and not necessarily tied to the physical world. Math is used to describe relationships, quantities, and structures through axioms, theorems, and proofs, such as solving equations, exploring geometric shapes, or studying number theory. It relies on deductive reasoning and proof. It starts with axioms or self-evident truths and builds theorems through logical steps. Mathematics is not dependent on empirical evidence, but rather on internal consistency and rigor. It is abstract and can exist independently of the physical world. While it is often inspired by real-world problems, it can explore concepts that have no direct physical counterpart, such as imaginary numbers or higher-dimensional spaces. Math is the language of science because it provides the tools and framework for scientific inquiry. We use math to model phenomena, analyze data, and make future predictions. Scientific problems and phenomena are what drives the development of new mathematical theories. In terms of systems, the 7 Hermetic laws of the universe is what provides the fundamental framework for mental logic. 7-base systems logic, as termed by common sense, is a mental framework to properly analyze complex or non-complex phenomena and problems. The 7 Hermetic laws of nature provide the foundational architecture of all systems, and most importantly, the architecture of the enemy's warfare system. The 7 Hermetic laws are: 1. Mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. 2. Correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. 3. Vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. 4. Polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unalike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. 5. Rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum's swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. 6. Cause and effect. Every cause has an effect. Every effect has a cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. 7. Gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests in all planes. To break this down in computer terms, it means: 1. The law of mentalism is the operating system of computers. 2. Correspondence, meaning as above so below, is the fractal application and compounding aspect of computers. 3. Vibration is the aspect of motional charge in computers. 4. Duality and polarity is the binary code language of computers. 5. The law of rhythm is the aspect of cyclic patterns in computers. 6. Causality means the output of computers. 7. The law of gender provides means for the balance and correction of computers. Thus, we now have the foundational blueprint of systemic warfare. All systems are composed of subsystems which operate on the same base archetypes. Remember that systems include physical systems along with abstract systems. This means that systems can be machines, humans and organisms, businesses, organizations, philosophies, phenomenons, etc. Every physical and non-physical abstract that exists within reality can be categorized as systemic devices which function on the same set of laws that are tailored on different functional levels. Functional levels are the different tiers or layers of operation that contribute to the functionality and behavior of the system as a whole. Each level represents a distinct mode of interaction, with its own set of processes and rules governing how components work together. These levels include the foundational elements, intermediate processes, and higher-order functionalities that manifest from the interaction of the lower levels. It gives us a clearer breakdown of how various components contribute to the system's overall effectiveness. By examining these levels, we can identify the areas of imbalance and false data. The rulebook to constructing any system or device is to start with the base laws first, and then scale upwards. In terms of societal systems, there are the concrete laws of nature, as well as the time-tested and proven concepts that are based on the exclusive survival needs of the founding entity. The blueprint or the input of something is determined by the desired output of something. It is just as how the founding of businesses, the output, is determined by the wants and needs of consumers, the input. Thus, the system of white supremacy can be mathematically decoded by utilizing the base laws to reverse engineer its output. In this case, it is the reverse engineering of the output of neurodiversity, such as ADHD and autism. The very first Hermetic principle of mentalism is the starting piece from which to commence the domino effect of systemic causality and logical deduction, so that we can illuminate the hidden mechanisms which effectuate the illusion of so-called idiopathic phenomena. In the context of decoding the system of silent warfare and human targeting, from these 7 base laws, we can thus deduce the following. 1. Mental grounding. All things and all warfare systems in reality are manifested from a mind. Psychoanalysis equals systems analysis. 2. Holistic thinking. All things are connected, all is one. The mind is the system and the system is the mind. The mechanisms of the outer system is a direct reflection of the mind's inner mechanisms. You cannot correct one without the other. As above, so below. As within, so without. Environmental equals N. Viron. Mental. 3. Binary decoding. The system of silent warfare operates on the binary code of mental confusion. True mental data versus false mental data confusion equals confusion. The term con means to do something deceptively. Fusion means to mix two or more things together. Therefore, confusion means to arrange binary data deceptively. 4. Motion detection. The mechanisms of the system are kept in motion via the conscious and unconscious decisions of the mind which created the system, plus the mind which is subjected to the system. The brain is always mining, or in motion for information to process, so that it can compute its next decision. Mind equals mine. 5. Pattern recognition. The patterns and covert maneuvers of the enemy directly coordinate with the patterns of mental brain circuits. Brain circuits are specified and quantified arrangements of mental obstacles, which when placed incorrectly, produces mental chaos. If you mix or arrange the atoms of chemical elements the right way, then you will get harmony and usefulness. Mix them the wrong way, then you will get destruction. Pattern circuit equals pattern circus. 6. Base logic. There is no such thing as idiopathic. All things which affect the mind and body are caused by mechanisms placed within the external environment. All problems in the external environment are directly caused by viruses, which is false data assimilation, in the internal mind environment. Viron, mental, equals virus, mental, which equals virus in the mental. 7. Data correction. In order to correct, reconcile, or replace the system of silent warfare, there must first be a reconciliation of the mind. All false mental data must be replaced with true mental data. Unlearn and relearn the warfare system in order to destroy and replace it. There is order, then there is chaos, then there is balance. Reconciliation equals reconciliation. RECKON. 8. Constants. All warfare phenomena are created from the fundamental and neutral, meaning neither good nor bad aspects of self, nature, universe, and/or God. These are concrete principles which cannot be destroyed. 9. Interchangeables. These are objects and principles which can be replaced within the system, without disrupting the overall function of the system. These are the opposite of constants. 10. Demarcations of logic and evidence. This is the circumference boundary of activity which prescribes what is mathematically possible within the system. These are only a few aspects. The 7 base foundation of systems is also what produces derivative characteristics and outputs. The 7 base foundation of duality is multiplied and compounded to produce a multiple of aspects and characteristics. A basic list of the derivative aspects of the enemy's warfare systems include: 1. Adaptive. Systems can adjust and evolve in response to changes in the environment or internal conditions, ensuring resilience and survival. 2. Dynamic. Systems are not static. They continuously change and evolve over time due to various influences and interactions among components. 3. Multifaceted. There are multiple dimensions or layers within a system, showcasing various characteristics, functions, or interactions that contribute to its complexity. 4. Regenerative. Systems that are regenerative have the ability to renew and restore themselves, often through processes that enhance sustainability over time. 5. Transfigurative. This is the capacity of a system to undergo transformation or significant change, leading to a new state or form while retaining some fundamental characteristics. 6. Atrophic. This indicates a system or component that is declining, degenerating, or experiencing a reduction in functionality, often due to lack of use or external stressors. It is the expiration. 7. Interchangeable. Components within a system that are interchangeable can be swapped or replaced without significantly affecting the overall function, emphasizing flexibility and modularity. 8. Output determines input. This principle suggests that the results produced by a system influence future inputs, creating a cycle where outputs shape the subsequent conditions and actions of the system. 8. Repetition of frequency waves. This aspect highlights how systems may operate through recurring patterns or cycles, often seen in processes like oscillation or rhythm, which contribute to stability or predictability. 10. Demarcation. These are the boundaries established within a system that define its limits, separating it from other systems and clarifying interactions and responsibilities. 11. Feedback loops. Feedback loops occur when outputs of a system are routed back as inputs, influencing future behavior. They can be positive, amplifying, or negative, diminishing, which impacts the system's dynamics. 12. Concreteness. This aspect emphasizes the tangible, physical, or measurable attributes of a system, making it easier to analyze and understand its behavior and interactions. The 7 base laws are concrete and do not change. The characteristics and derivative functions are interchangeable. Now let's take a closer look at the aspect of regeneration. A generator is a device that converts mechanical energy into electrical energy. It operates on the principle of electromagnetic induction, where a conductor, like a wire, moves through a magnetic field, which produces an electric current. They are used to provide backup power during outages, in remote locations, and in applications where electrical energy is required but not available from the grid. They can be powered by various sources, including fossil fuels, renewable energy like solar power, or even nuclear energy. In this metaphor, the systems of the enemy can be likened to generators that transmute societal laws, concepts, principles, and tactics into various modes of energy that fuel systemic warfare. There is also the aspect of input reaction. This refers to how a system responds to various inputs or stimuli from its environment. This process can be broken down into two primary components: input and reaction. Input includes any external factor, resource, or signal that enters the system. Inputs can be tangible, like physical materials or energy, or intangible, such as information or feedback. The nature and quality of the input significantly influence the system's behavior. Reaction is the system's response to the input, which can manifest in various ways, such as changes in behavior, output, or internal state. Reactions can either be immediate or take time to unfold, depending on the complexity and dynamics of the system. The interaction between input and reaction illustrates a fundamental characteristic of systems, that they are not passive entities. Instead, systems actively process inputs and produce outputs based on their structure, rules, and internal mechanisms. This relationship is often crucial for understanding system behavior, as it highlights how external influences shape processes and outcomes. Analyzing these interactions can help identify patterns, optimize performance, and predict future behavior in a variety of contexts, from ecological systems to organizational structures. The aspect of expiration means that the input-reaction cycles, such as the input-reaction time of drugs, assault, and overall tactics, must eventually come to an end. The internal operations of systems move according to the rhythm of time triggers. For example, humans must operate according to the Earth's cycle, which completes a cycle around the sun that takes 24 hours. The circadian rhythm of the body triggers serotonin during the day to help stay awake, and triggers the brain chemical melatonin during the night to fall asleep. Thus, we know to effectuate optimal health, we must be awake and physically active during the day, and then rest or sleep during the night. The stock market also moves based on cyclic triggers, which are the emotional decisions of the investors who trigger fluctuations in the prices of stocks. Thus, the skilled investor knows how to predict the most probable positions of high profitability and when to move in and out of the market. He must know and discern the emotions of himself, the supply-demand dynamics of the market environment, and the emotional state of other investors in the environment. Likewise, the enemy's systems are either naturally or mechanically equipped with mechanisms which trigger specific internal and/or external functions according to specific time sets. Considering that all systems are interconnected, this means that the warfare tactic of divide and conquer is the fundamental weapon of assault. The enemy must fragmentize and compartmentalize the origins, the fundamental framework, and patterns of all his systems and warfare strategies. This, however, can be neutralized by utilizing the law of Trinity, which is another aspect of systems. The law of Trinity can be ascribed to the Hermetic law of gender, as it is only when both masculine and feminine principles operate in correct harmony that balance comes to life. The duality of human gender, male and female, births a third element which reconciles the dual traits of both genes. One male plus one female equals one offspring. Reconciliation involves extracting the concrete principles of the fundamental roots, then combining it with newly discovered data. One of the most fundamental principles of governance, business, education, or overall civilization is that there can be no true progress without one. The logical mind of a man and two. The intuitive mind of a woman who three. Harmonize and synchronize to mentally birth new concepts of civilization that are aligned with the true balance of nature. That is, the true balance of melanin. Simply put, dualities describe fundamental, irreducible opposites such as light and dark or male and female. Trinities compensate for the ambiguity or confusion of dualities by introducing a third element. In the context of the enemy's warfare system, the third element is the balance to the binary code of falsehood mixed with truth. The fundamental knowledge that was lost is reconciled together with the new, objective data that was discovered. The Trinity reveals a more complex, unified structure beyond the binary structure, which is only the microcosm of a triune macrocosm, and so forth. The third element corrects, evolves, or completes the system. Remember, there is order, then there is chaos, and then there is balance. A few examples of the Trinity of life include God, which is the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. 3D reality, which is space, time, and matter. Quantum, which is energy, frequency, and vibration. Human, which is soul, spirit, and mind-body. Time, which includes past, present, and future. Life cycle, which includes birth, life, and death. Cosmic, which is to create, to preserve, and to renew. Thus, if all objects and entities are essentially triune, then all systems are triune as well. The geometrical dimensions are infinite. There is the hardware, then there is the software, and then there is the output. Now, let's take all of these aspects of systems and place them into the context of neurodiversity and silent, trauma-based warfare. 1. Adaptability. Adjust MK Ultra tactics and strategies to respond to changes in resistance, societal conditions, and cultural dynamics within the subject's communities. 2. Dynamic. The system must remain fluid and cannot remain fixed or static. There must always be motion. 3. Multifaceted. Employ various dimensions of control, such as psychological, social, economic, and political, each contributing to a complex web that maintains power. 4. Regeneration. Renew the system and warfare tactics by creating cycles of oppression in order to sustain influence and adapt to counteractions from resistance movements. 5. Transfiguration. Transform warfare methods to adapt to new forms of control or ideology while still retaining the fundamental framework and characteristics. 6. Atrophy. The system may decline or lose effectiveness over time due to increased resistance or external pressures. Therefore, deploy fear tactics to reassert dominance. 7. Interchangeability. Elements within warfare structures can be replaced easily, allowing for flexibility in warfare tactics and to maintain a consistent control over the population. 8. Output determines input. The actions and responses of the subjects is what shapes future warfare strategies. The patterns of resistance inform further adaptation of strategies. 9. Repetition of frequency waves. The tactics must rely on recurring patterns and cycles of fear, propaganda, and suppression to instill compliance and predictability among the subjects. 10. Demarcation. Draw clear boundaries to define control limits which separate ourselves from the oppressed subjects, while also clarifying the roles and responsibilities of secret agents within the warfare system. 11. Feedback loops. The results of tactical warfare actions are fed back into the system, which influences future tactics. These loops can either escalate the tactics or provoke resistance. 12. Concreteness. Emphasize the tangible measures of oppression, such as laws, military presence, and surveillance, to create a palpable sense of control and authority that the subjects must navigate. As always, while this may not provide a full scope of the enemy warfare tactics, it still provides a wider perspective and diameter to defend against him. The mechanistic output of trauma is all one connected circuit of shock. In terms of a light bulb circuit, the electric current must pass through the switches, which either store the electric current off or release the electric current on. The triggers may also increase the voltage power of the current depending on the number of switches and their arrangement. If the circuit is broken up, or depending on how the current is turned on and off in certain patterns utilizing the switches, then either the entire circuit of light bulbs would shut off, or only one or two bulbs would shut off while others stay on. Thus, the specific sequence of trauma outputs from the mind depends on the sequence of shock triggers in the internal current of the brain and the external environment of the brain. Stimulating the shock of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn is what either locks the shock in place or releases it. In the context of sports, a circuit is also an obstacle course that the athlete must go through to reach the finish line or goal. When it comes to the environmental circuit of trauma, however, the end goal is not a medal trophy or mental satisfaction. It is hypnotic mental slavery. Remember, circuit equals circus. The store-release increase sequence of electric currents depends on the number of switches, as well as the pattern of switches in the circuit. The challenge of sports circuits is the number of obstacles and the resistive patterning of the obstacles, which cause inertia and challenges the competitor. This is also the case in circuses, except the obstacle courses are simply used for entertainment and not competition. When examining oppressive systems in terms of energy circuits, the arrangement of structures such as barriers, checkpoints, and surveillance functions similarly to electrical circuits that control the flow of energy. These layouts create pathways for power and control, deliberately directing energy away from certain areas or communities while concentrating it in others. Even the square structure of Western architecture is oppressive to melanin energy flow, which hoards energy in the corners of the squares. This manipulation of energy flow restricts the free movement and interactions of Black individuals. This is what stifles their autonomy and resilience. Like a circuit that can be broken or rerouted, melanin-oppressive designs inhibit the natural, healthy exchange of resources and ideas, leading to stagnation and disempowerment within the affected communities. These energy circuits reinforce the power dynamics of the enemy's assault tactics, thus ensuring the flow of energy aligns with the interests of only himself. When it comes to controlling the energy of these trauma circuits, the enemy can be likened unto a ringmaster. The ringmaster of a circus orchestrates performances of the actors, guiding the audience's attention and controlling the flow of entertainment while showcasing the talents of various acts. Similarly, the puppet master of warfare systems manipulates individuals or groups, directing their actions and perceptions from behind the scenes to maintain control. While the ringmaster focuses on spectacle and engagement, the puppet master seeks to exert dominance and maintain power over the subject. Both roles involve strategic oversight. While the ringmaster operates in a context of performance and participation, the puppet master operates through coercion and manipulation. The enemy is a hybrid of both. Therefore, deductive reasoning, and starting from empirical, scientific, and mathematical axioms, is what allows for the full decoding of systemic architecture. It is what will illuminate the puppet master, the ring master, or the wizard behind the curtains of illusion and superficial complexity. The equation for the enemy's manifestation of warfare tactics can be understood as a relationship between the sequence of matter and the speed at which it is influenced or transformed. The sequence of matter is the structured arrangement and organization of physical elements and thoughts, forming a coherent pattern. The speed signifies the rate at which ideas, emotions, or intentions are acted upon or energized. Just as energy in Einstein's equation of E equals mc squared is derived from mass and the speed of light, likewise, human manifestation arises from the interplay of matter and the velocity of conscious intent or action. Faster energy can lead to quicker manifestation, meaning that the more focused and deliberate an intention, the quicker it may materialize in the physical realm. Ultimately, this means that weapons creation for the enemy is not just a function of what he wants, which is the matter, but how effectively he can channel both his and his subjects' energies and intentions into tactical actions. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, as stated, attributed her concept of a unified field theory to insights drawn from Einstein's work. Her unified field theory focuses on the psychological and social implications of race, particularly the dynamics of white supremacy and its impact on Black people and society as a whole. She emphasized the importance of understanding the psychological motivations behind racism and how they manifest in societal structures. Her theories therefore provide a mental framework for addressing these deep-rooted issues. To requote her words which were stated in episode 1, from page 45 of her work, The ISIS Papers, quote, "Heretofore, no Western behavioral scientist has recognized the single connecting thread of logic permeating seemingly unrelated phenomena, such as lynchings, smoking objects, bullfights, chocolate candy with nuts, coffee, guns, umbrellas, automobiles, skiing, race, races and racing, horse, foot and car, the Adam and Eve mythology, Moby Dick, Dracula, Frankenstein, the play Equus by Peter Shaffer, paper money, gold, Christian religious symbolism, the Nazi swastika, anti-Semitism, sexual perversions, apartheid, child abuse, capitalism, nudism, the Holocaust, alienation, sexism, homosexuality, pornography, narcissism, gambling, rape, flags, men's ties, etc. All of the above are but a few of the major behavior energy entities, myths and symbols included in the white supremacy system culture that are related to the single underlying law governing the origin and continued existence of Western civilization." End quote. Thus, let's take a closer look at how divide, frictionalize, and conquer is the ultimate tactic of the enemy. 1. Fragmentize the interconnected principles of God, man, nature, and the universe. Reverse the natural hermetic law of geometrical oneness. 2. Hide, fragmentize, and compartmentalize the biological, geoarchaeological, and historic origins of Aboriginal Blacks and Caucasians. 3. Fragmentize the chronologically revealed, interconnected books of all religion. 4. Hide, fragmentize, and compartmentalize the knowledge of melanin, which is the true atom of all science and mathematics. 5. Divide and isolate the natural chemical molecules of drugs to make them unnatural and harmful to melanin. 6. Traumatically alter and/or reduce bodily melanin, then compartmentalize its incorrect physical outputs. Falsely label the compartmentalized outputs as diseases and disorders. 7. Traumatically alter and/or reduce neuromelanin of the brain, then compartmentalize its sensory mechanistic outputs. Falsely label the incorrect psychological outputs as diseases and disorders. 8. Separate the head from the body. Do this in many ways. This includes: separate the mental diagnosis of neurodiversity from physical symptoms. Focus exclusively on cognitive and behavioral outputs without examining the physiological and biological implications. This effectively separates the victim's cognitive perception of their mind from the perception of their body. Separate the head from the body by reversing the natural order of the stomach-intestines being in control of mental brain health. In terms of a cure, focus most primarily on drugs which alter the brain and less on foods and natural substances which balance the stomach. Cut off the collective head of a community, which are their leaders, from the body of the community. 9. Fragmentize, divide and conquer the socioeconomic communities of all melanated people worldwide. Do this by causing social divisions to fragmentize communication, divide and compartmentalize the oneness of all melanin cultures, skew and fragmentize the perception of interconnected events in which the same white supremacy tactics are utilized worldwide via media and false propaganda. Distort the interconnected narrative around the genocide. Looting of resources. False flag operations, government coups, etc., which are done to almost all melanated nations of the world. 10. Hide, fragmentize, and compartmentalize the origins, fundamental framework, and patterns of all white supremacy systems and warfare assaults. These are but a few ways in which the enemy deploys the tactic of divide and conquer. This tactic of divide and conquer involves manipulating divisions within the ranks of a community or population in order to weaken their overall strength and effectiveness. By creating distrust, promoting dissent, or highlighting existing grievances between factions, this strategy fragmentizes true cohesion and interconnectedness. When groups are pitted against each other, their collective resources and efforts are diminished, making it easier for the enemy to identify and exploit vulnerabilities. In fragmented warfare systems, communication between factions becomes strained, leading to disorganization and confusion. Without a unified front, the Black community struggles to mount a coordinated defense or offense, which allows the enemy to capitalize on our weaknesses. This tactic not only demoralizes Black individuals, but also creates an environment where the community is more likely to turn on itself rather than to collaborate against their common enemy. By dismantling alliances and fostering infighting, the divide and conquer approach ensures that Blacks remain distracted and disunited, and thus easier to control. The fragmentation of his warfare systems is a strategic advantage for the enemy, as it reduces the capability to effectively respond to his threats. This is why the Black community in particular, who is the most melanated, divided, and conquered of all humans, have the most mental diseases. As Dr. Francis Cress Welsing states in the ISIS Papers, quote, Western social and behavioral science, particularly psychiatry, has been content with behavior fragment analyses and multiple theoretical explanations for different behaviors. This demonstrates a failure to comprehend the entire forest, while focusing on isolated trees or clumps of trees. Failure to comprehend the whole behavior energy force field has resulted in isolated behavior modification techniques and programs. The inability to grasp the manner in which the total social structure determines the behavior of the individual personality, and the tendency to focus on isolated neurochemical sequences and mechanisms as causing certain behavior pattern constellations. This limited pattern of perception and the apparently necessary pattern of endless abstracting, with an inability to synthesize the whole, may be predicated upon a pattern of data reception in the nervous system of persons who possess insufficient levels of melanin in their nervous systems. The lack of melanin results from the genetic deficiency state of albinism, or its variants, which in turn influences basic patterns of perception of energy messages from the physical social environment. End quote. She then states that Western psychiatry's inability to identify abstract interrelationships in psychiatry is due to having an inadequate conceptual and theoretical base. This brings us to what common sense coins as the holistic logic chain, which is a cognitive framework of thought that provides the missing adequate base. The aspects of 7-base systems logic is what gives us the outline for a simplified framework of cognitive and philosophical thought. The definition of holistic is 1. Emphasizing the importance of the whole and the interdependence of its parts. 2. Concerned with wholes rather than analysis or separation into parts. Thus, the holistic logic chain provides a step-by-step thought process of how different patterns and concepts are interconnected with other patterns and concepts on different abstract levels. The holistic logic chain consists of axiom, contextual demarcation, abstraction, pattern recognition, conceptual leap, hypothesis, testing, and theory. Here's the breakdown. 1. Axiom. An accepted statement or premise that requires no proof. It is the fundamental principle or self-evident truth that forms the base for further reasoning. It is a starting point for reasoning that establishes the foundational truths on which all subsequent thoughts or theories are constructed. This can also be an empirical observation. Without a starting point, logical progression becomes impossible. 2. Contextual demarcation. Outlining the specific circumstances or environment where the axiom is relevant. It defines the boundaries or context within which the axiom applies. It prevents misinterpretation and ensures that the reasoning aligns with specific scenarios. 3. Abstraction. Simplifying complex concepts by focusing on the essential qualities rather than specific details, which creates a generalized framework for understanding. It is to distill complex concepts into simpler terms or general ideas. Creating abstract models allows for the application of insights across various contexts, making connections easier to identify and understand. 4. Pattern recognition. To identify recurring themes or structures within data or concepts. It is the ability to see relationships, regularities, or trends among abstracted information. 5. Conceptual leap. The process of making a significant cognitive jump from established ideas or patterns to new innovative insights or solutions that transcend traditional thinking. It involves making a significant shift in thinking to reach a new conclusion, insight, or innovative idea on different conceptual levels. It synthesizes all prior steps and culminates in breakthroughs in thought. 6. Hypothesis. A testable statement or prediction about the relationship between variables, formulated based on observations or prior knowledge. 7. Testing. Collecting data and evidence which support the hypothesis. 8. Theory. A well-substantiated explanation of an aspect of the natural world, supported by a body of evidence gathered through repeated experimentation and observations. It integrates various hypotheses and provides a framework for understanding complex phenomena, making predictions about future events or behaviors. The holistic logic chain is accurate as it sequentially builds complexity, starting from a fundamental truth, defining its scope, simplifying to core ideas, identifying relationships, and ultimately leading to innovative insights on different levels of phenomena. This provides the basis for predictions, experimentation, and conclusions. Each step reinforces and supports the next, illustrating a clear pathway from basic understanding to advanced cognitive processing. All of this can be referred to as logical reverse engineering. Reverse engineering an axiom involves deconstructing foundational principles to understand their origins, implications, and applications within a given system of thought. First, you must deconstruct the axiom. This means breaking down the axiom into its fundamental components to analyze the assumptions and logic that underpin it. Then, you must provide contextual analysis, which means investigating the conditions and contexts in which the axiom was formulated. Afterwards, you must see how the base patterns are applied to different abstract scales. This reveals how it interacts with other concepts and laws. Thus, here is a breakdown of the reverse engineering of the axiom of neurodiversity. Axiom. ADHD and autism causes hyperactivity, impulsivity, impaired memory, etc. Contextual demarcation. Studying the exact symptoms, diagnosis, and causes of neurodiversity give us an understanding of exactly what it is and what it is not. Abstraction. Neurodiversity is caused by chemical warfare and post-traumatic stress disorder, which also produces a hormonal imbalance of estrogen and testosterone. Chemical trauma is primarily caused by the overstimulation, reduction, halting, or destruction of melanin. Pattern recognition. MKUltra also utilized the same techniques of chemical warfare and PTSD, which was used to split the mind into dissociative fragments and induce hypnotic mind control. Neurodivergents have the same exact psychophysiological characteristics of melanin-deficient Neanderthals. Conceptual leap. The same base patterns used to cause hypnotic PTSD, as well as the patterns which cause melanin-deficient Neanderthal Caucasoid characteristics, have been applied from the microcosm of the individual to the macrocosm of society. The collective hive mind of the Black community functions as an incoherent neurodivergent, with impaired cultural memory, disunity of thoughts, social isolation from the world and one another, lack of will, passivity, etc. Hypothesis. The melanin-deficient enemy, due to the resentment of his melanin-deficient Neanderthal Caucasoid characteristics, projects and engineers his own historical and psychophysiological features onto melanated human beings through chemical warfare, economic warfare, and trauma warfare. Testing. 1. Empirical primary source evidence. The projection of Neanderthal Caucasoid has been fractally applied to all areas of people activity. The projection of Neanderthal Caucasoid is applied on all dynamics of survival, from the individual, to the family, to the community, and to society. The projection of Neanderthal Caucasoid is utilized in the language which is spoken out of the mouths of white supremacists themselves. Mostly all melanin communities are oppressed by white supremacy warfare, which produces the exact characteristics of Neanderthal Caucasoids, as well as symptoms of PTSD. Melanin, which is the root of all science and mathematics, and the primary apparatus used to induce trauma, and of which the enemy does not possess, is intentionally excluded from the educational system of white supremacy. 2. Logical evidence. There was hardly any such thing as mental or physical disease, which is primarily caused by melanin deficiency, before the arrival of the Caucasian. 3. Historical time-tested evidence. The concepts and theories of past scholars, as it pertains to Caucasian resentment and survival, still align with the observable and measurable data of today. The trauma-based mind control of society has been the aim of the governing elite for decades or even centuries, as documented by past scholars and first-hand victims. The Caucasian has been the primary destroyer of Earth and civilization for the past 6,000 years. Thus, here is the theory. Most, if not all, mental and physical diseases are the result of the collective Caucasian inferiority complex, in which people of melanin are chemically, sociologically, economically, and traumatically manipulated to reflect the attributes of the Caucasian, resource-diminished historical experience, and the melanin-deficient Neanderthal Caucasoid. The natural Caucasian genotype, called Neanderthal, is artificially engineered into people of color to produce the unnatural phenotype called Niga. This was the cognitive process which I personally utilized to illuminate the full scale of the warfare matrix. This logic chain can also be used for philosophical thought in general. As stated, the enemy most often postulates that the world is too complex to comprehend, and that the problems of disorder and disease, whether on the individual level or societal level, are too complex to correct. This is because he has fragmentized the underlying, interconnected concepts which pertain to them. All things in reality possess concepts and patterns that can be abstracted to reveal their interconnected nature. The principle of rhythm, for example, is evident in music, biological processes, and business market trends. This shows how a single concept can transcend different fields. A clear example of the interconnectedness of physical things is the phenomenon of fractals. Fractals, such as snowflakes, trees, roots, or coastlines, exhibit self-similarity at different scales, meaning that similar patterns appear whether you view them up close or from afar. Thus, even natural forms and mathematical concepts are united at the root. These abstractions help us to decode seemingly complex systems by applying insights from one area to another. The holistic logic chain is therefore the defense to the enemy's fragmentation tactic of confusion. A general example of utilizing the logic chain to defend against his lies is the subject of melanin. The enemy has often claimed that melanin is nothing more than an inconsequential waste product. Thus, we can commence the logic chain by starting with the axiom we already know. Axiom: melanin is in all people of color. Contextual demarcation: study the subject of melanin from melanated scholars themselves, to see exactly what it is and what it is not. Abstraction: melanin, which the enemy does not possess, is the ultimate emotional motherboard that permeates all of reality. From atoms, nature, animals, humans, and the universe, and is the primary apparatus of health and sickness. Pattern recognition: the enemy has utilized the pattern of reversing extremes by stating that melanin is nothing, when it is actually the motherboard of all life itself, and is therefore everything. The enemy has deleted the term melanin from all scientific education and fragmentized its interconnected patterns. Conceptual leap: the pattern of reversing natural extremes can be observed in most concepts of the enemy's warfare, such as claiming that mental illness is too complex to solve, yet is most easily corrected by food, natural herbs, and language. Blacks possess the most intellectual and creative potential, yet are the most powerless. Caucasians have the least intellectual and creative potential, yet are most powerful. White supremacy is a house of cards which is easily destroyed, yet is postured as overly complex and sophisticated. The pattern of hiding and deleting melanin, which is the root to all things, can be seen in the tactic of hiding and isolating the black atom of all society, which is the black man and woman. The pattern of dividing and fragmentizing melanin is applied to all areas of people activity and to all dynamics of survival. Hypothesis. The enemy, since he does not possess melanin, and since he himself was created in the extreme opposite nature from Aboriginal humans, has reversed, hidden, and fragmentized the knowledge of melanin. Testing. The knowledge of melanin is hidden and fragmentized in all Caucasian societies. Theory. The enemy is resentful of the melanin he does not possess, and therefore hides and distorts it. Ergo, after we have understood the composition of systems, and how to cognitively defend against the enemy's warfare system, we must then learn how to utilize the physical defense system. Knowledge is valuable only when it can be applied physically. And understanding the enemy's tactics means little if we lack the capability to respond effectively in action. This gap is what leaves the Black community at a disadvantage. Technically, the foundational Black American is the most intellectually conscious community on all of Earth, as they are not only the true atoms of all American industries, technological innovation and culture, but they are the very first 400-year-old subjects of the world's common enemy, who live directly in the belly of the world beast, with first-hand insights into the global system of white supremacy and the enemy himself. However, all of our theoretical insights without physical application have failed to translate into real-world economic progress. Therefore, after the practical education system, needs to come a practical application and defense system. This is the system of economic independence and separation. Essentially, it is the system of freedom, justice, and equality, which is what the foundational Black American has been searching for centuries. When it comes to emerging technology, the enemy often demonizes artificial intelligence and portrays blockchain technology as being overly complex. This is done to instill fear and confusion around its true potential, as it prevents individuals and communities from embracing the technologies that could empower them. By misrepresenting these tools, the enemy aims to maintain control over the population, which ensures that they remain dependent on his oppressive systems rather than exploring decentralized alternatives. This false narrative obstructs society's ability to organize, innovate, and support one another independently. The enemy knows that the biggest threat of blockchain and AI is that communities can essentially build an uninfiltratable system of civilization that is out of his economic control. Blockchain is a decentralized digital ledger technology that securely records transactions across a network of computers. Each transaction is grouped into a block, which is then linked to the previous block, forming a chain. This structure ensures that the data is immutable, meaning once it is recorded, it cannot be altered without consensus from the network participants. Transactions are verified using cryptographic techniques, which enhances security and trust among users. Blockchain is the underlying technology behind cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, but has broader applications in areas such as supply chain management, finance, and healthcare. This is significant for several reasons, as it fundamentally alters various industries and how we conduct transactions. This includes 1. Decentralization. Blockchain eliminates the need for a central authority, allowing users to interact directly. This reduces reliance on middlemen and intermediaries, which can lead to lower costs and increased efficiency. It eliminates middlemen like banks, payment processors, clearinghouses, escrow services, and record-keeping authorities, by enabling peer-to-peer transactions verified by a decentralized network. This means that payments go directly to the beneficiary in an instant. 2. Transparency. Transactions recorded on a blockchain are visible and accessible to all participants, which fosters complete trust. This transparency helps reduce fraud and corruption, as any changes are easily traceable. 3. Security. The cryptographic techniques used to secure transactions make blockchains inherently resistant to tampering and hacking, which ensures data integrity. 4. Immutability. Once a transaction is recorded on the blockchain, it cannot be altered or deleted, which creates a permanent and tamper-proof record. This is crucial for applications needing a reliable audit trail, such as financial services and legal contracts. 5. Speed and efficiency. Blockchain can streamline processes by automating transactions through smart contracts, which execute automatically when specified conditions are met. This reduces the time and complexity of traditional transaction methods. As far as cryptocurrency, it is also significant because it offers a decentralized and secure means of transferring value. This allows people to conduct transactions without intermediaries like banks, and thus enhances financial autonomy. Communities can create their own currency by establishing a blockchain network or utilizing existing platforms to issue tokens, setting rules for their use, and fostering local acceptance through community engagement and partnerships. Then we have artificial intelligence. AI is particularly significant in business because it enhances decision-making by analyzing vast datasets quickly and accurately, which provides insights that human analysts may overlook. AI automates routine tasks that frees human employees to focus on more strategic initiatives, thus increasing overall efficiency and productivity. AI-driven tools improve customer experiences through personalized service, chatbots, and predictive analytics, which help businesses anticipate customer needs. It can also optimize supply chain management by forecasting demand and streamlining logistics, which reduces overall costs and improves operational efficiency. As AI technologies evolve, they enable businesses to innovate and create new products or services, giving them a competitive edge in rapidly changing markets. Together, artificial intelligence and blockchain can foster trust and transparency, essential components of a thriving online civilization, while enabling innovative solutions to social and economic challenges. Thus, their integration is pivotal for building a robust, interconnected digital future. The integration of blockchain and AI can also help to establish self-policing systems which enhance accountability in law enforcement and provide a defense system against terrorist aggression. For example, blockchain can offer a secure, tamper-proof record of police actions, which allow for transparent auditing. AI can analyze these logs in real time to identify patterns of misconduct or corruption. When suspicious activity is detected, the system can trigger alerts to certain individuals in the area and to community organizations for further investigation. Smart contracts can automate reviews based on predefined thresholds, such as excessive use of force. As far as democracy, these new technologies can be effectively utilized to create a secure and transparent voting system that is tailored for community-specific issues. Blockchain technology ensures that each vote is recorded in a tamper-proof manner, providing a transparent audit trail that enhances trust in the voting process. By using smart contracts, communities can automate processes such as vote counting and eligibility verification, thus reducing the risk of human error and fraud. AI can analyze the community's voting patterns and sentiments, which offer insights to help shape future policies and decisions. The system can also employ advanced algorithms to ensure that voting is accessible and inclusive, addressing any disparities among community members. This combination fosters greater civic engagement because residents can participate in decisions which affect their lives, while ensuring that the voting process remains fair and transparent. Thus, new technology empowers communities to address their unique challenges through systems which are inherently democratic and efficient. Essentially, therefore, blockchain and AI can facilitate the creation of a political party by ensuring transparency and inclusivity in member engagement and decision-making. Blockchain can securely record membership data and voting outcomes, which provide an immutable audit trail that creates trust among community members. AI can analyze voter preferences and sentiments that allow the party to develop policies which resonate with the community's needs. Additionally, AI-driven tools can facilitate communication and mobilization efforts, making it easier to engage supporters and rally them around shared goals. This combination empowers grassroots movements that enable groups to articulate their interests effectively within the political landscape. With all of that being said, it has never been easier, in all of modern history, for the foundational Black American to build and create an independent civilization away from the oppressive and capitalistic system of white supremacy. The biggest complaint of the foundational Black American has always been that the economic playing field of America has never been leveled or equal. But all scales of civilization have now been balanced, and there is no longer any excuse as to why the FBA community cannot progress toward total separation, freedom, and independence. It has never been easier to create an exclusive FBA civilization with our own exclusive currency, banking system, legal system, political party, voting system, education system, commerce system, business platforms, news platforms, culture and entertainment platforms, self-policing systems, terrorist monitoring and defense systems, and even more. This uninfiltratable system of online civilization is what will translate to the funding of physical structures for food, clothing, housing, and institutions that will not be as easy to destroy, as the monitoring and defense system can also be constructed to defend against physical agents of the enemy. All in all, God has now made all things simple. It will no longer be possible, or at least as easy, for the enemy to burn and destroy Black businesses, loot money, funds, and resources, steal legal rights and patents, infiltrate FBA culture, or target FBA individuals without economic consequence. The act of integration, and wanting to live amongst our 400-year-old open enemy, was the most unwise and economically devastating decision of the foundational Black American. The integration of Black people into predominantly white spaces led to the economic decline of Black businesses and institutions that had previously thrived in segregated environments. As communities integrated, many Black consumers shifted their spending to white-owned businesses, resulting in a loss of revenue for local Black enterprises. This shift weakened the economic foundations of Black neighborhoods and diminished the resources available for community development. The dismantling of segregated institutions which served Black populations, such as schools and hospitals, often replaced them with underfunded alternatives that could not meet the needs of the Black community. Thus, while integration was said to provide equal opportunities, it frequently resulted in economic marginalization for Black communities, which stunted growth and self-sufficiency. As stated in Episode 4, there is a difference between economic separation and economic segregation. The enemy loves to confuse the two and pull on our moral consciousness in order to obstruct the progression of the foundational Black American. Literally every other community in America plays the exact same game of group economics for their own exclusive needs, yet the FBA is constantly bombarded with labels such as racist for wanting to be independent as well. As also stated in Episode 3, to be racist, in its most accurate definition, is to be exclusively focused on the wants and needs of one's own race. We do not want segregation. We want, and need, complete and total economic separation. Thus, in conclusion, understanding the base composition of the enemy's systems, the derivative aspects of his systems, the mental holistic logic chain system, and the system of economic freedom and separation, is what provides the ultimate defense against the enemy and his offensive warfare system of white supremacy. Understanding the architecture of systems allows us to comprehend how various elements interact within the societal and warfare structure. By employing the holistic logic chain, along with other logic frameworks which will be discussed in further episodes, we have the ability to identify and counteract the psychological tactics employed by the enemy to keep us enslaved. Ultimately, by fostering an in-depth knowledge of these systems, we can develop effective defense strategies and innovative approaches that provide Black autonomy and empowerment.